Alright, Wrong Turn 2 time, and I'm watching the Wrong Turn movies for the first time in this collection that I bought at Walmart, and I'm honestly excited because I really enjoyed the first Wrong Turn. I was surprised at how, even though it's a simple movie, the first Wrong Turn, it really gave, like, a really fun and interesting and actually really suspenseful, like, time. Like, it's not anything to write home about, but I thought in terms of, like, thrills, like, Wrong Turn, the first one was great. So I was really glad after watching the first one. I'm like, okay, I'll watch these sequels, even though because I'm a completionist. Regardless of that, I still want to see them. But I was interested just because of the first one. I'm like, okay, these ones might not all be too bad. Watching these sequels and watching Wrong Turn 2, it's definitely for me a step down from the first one, but not in a way where it's like the worst thing ever. This is just it's really cheesy on purpose. But it's fun. It's a fun sequel. It's a fun, over-the-top, really crazy sequel. I like the fact that it opens kind of like the first one, where one character, this time it's a girl, is driving on their own. Except for this time, the girl character gets killed immediately. Like, I like the fact that this girl is coming onto this reality show thing, which would be a part of the whole movie, which this was done way better with the reality show angle than, like, Halloween Resurrection, which, of course, is dog shit. But in terms of, like, movies with the reality shows, like, this one, it's not, like, anything to write home about, but this actually had some, like, it was not too bad with the reality show bits. Like, it wasn't the worst thing ever. Even for a movie like this, which you think, oh, that would be terrible putting that in there, using a reality show as a reason to have these characters in the woods. But I thought it was fine. But anyways, the opening character, the Kimberly girl, or Kimbo, she drives on her own to this place, and then she runs over a guy, and then she realizes that whenever she goes and tries to help the guy, it's one of the cannibals, and he like literally grabs her face and like pushes her down, and she's screaming. And then you realize after she gets up, he bit off her freaking lip, and like she's bleeding down the face, and it's disgusting. And then she turns around and there's other cannibals, and then one guy gets the axe and then axes her, like from the angle that she shows her legs in the ground, but it literally, he axes her down and she falls in half and her guts fall down on the ground, her intestines. And I was just like, wow, that's a cool way to open this movie. Like, it was really, it had a cool effect on me. Like, I was like, wow, this is a cool way to open this. It was intense. It was gross, but not like, it was kind of over the top, but not in a super over the top way where, like, oh, she fell in half, or she got cut in half and then her intestines fell on the ground, and then you see two of them drag up each half of her body. Like, and it was funny because it's not super over the top, but it's over the top just in a way where it's not super funny, but it works in a well way for me. I liked that opening a lot. I thought that was a really good way to open the movie. And then I like the fact that we get introduced to all these different reality show characters, or people who are in this reality show. And I like the fact that Texas Battle and the other girl from Final Destination 3, I don't remember her name on top of my head, but these two characters were both in Final Destination 3, and I like the fact that they play similar characters. Texas Battle is the guy who was the football guy in Final Destination 3 who gets his head smashed in by the weights in the weight room. And the funny thing is, he's involved in football in this too, where like he has like a condition where he can't play football, but it's literally this character is doing the similar thing. It's related to football. I thought that was funny that this and Final Destination 3 really had some similarities with that. And the girl character from Final Destination 3, one of the girls who dies in the tanning bed, is in this too. And she isn't as stupid, like portrayed as stupid in this movie like that one, but she does have a lot of dumb moments. And I thought that it was just funny that both of these characters, or these actors, were both in Final Destination 3 and have a very similar, like, relationship thing to how they were in that movie. Like I said, with the guy with football and with the girl being pretty stupid. But not as stupid as Final Destination 3, but she still had that kind of airhead-ish about her in this movie. And I thought that was just funny that they're very similar to their Final Destination 3 character counterparts. And you get introduced to all these other characters, which are fine, I guess. They're perfectly serviceable, except for the douchebag guy. God, I hate this cliche. I hate these fucking guys who I know they're supposed to be there so you can hate them and get rid of them. Like you want them to die, but man, just this was a stretch to even every time this character said something, every time this character was demeaning to everybody, it just it pisses me off. It's just really because I've known shitty people like that in real life, where like all they do is talk about how they're just treating you bad, or and stuff like that. And I hate that this character is like that. It's just so annoying. And that guy just drove me nuts. That douchebag character, like it was so obnoxious and so annoying that it just grated on me. Like the first one, it's funny that there's two characters from both of these movies. Like the first one, even though the first one I liked a lot more than this one's still good. But I liked how in the first one, that girl who like fell over and cried every time like cannibals got near, and she's like, I can't do it, I can't do it. She was annoying too, but she was annoying in the she was annoying as this character, but she wasn't as annoying as this guy, because at least she, in that situation, like, yeah, it's hard to, like, see everybody get murdered around you and keep running, and she's like, I can't do it anymore, and, like, that, to me, is annoying, but that's more relatable than the douchebag guy who just treats everybody like dog shit and is just supposed to be there to get killed. Just so obnoxious. This character was worse than the character from the first movie, the girl. And it does have a silly, like, this movie does have a silly, like, in a way, it's really, it's trying to be like it's supposed to like reference its like cliches, and I think it does that a little bit, but like it's interesting how like they portray this movie as opposed to the first one, where it has a lot of silly moments. Like for example, there's a scene where the girl who's from Final Destination 3 is on the beach, or on like right by the river, and is laying down in her underwear, and she's sitting there laying down, and then this cannibal guy is masturbating in the trees. And that, to me, I feel like wouldn't fly in the first one. Like, that was so weird and out of nowhere. Like, but it's supposed to be a like parody of I felt like these kind of movies, and that's why I kind of enjoyed it a little more, because it's so weird that like they have moments like that. And you're just like, okay, that's kind of off. And then like, whenever the old man later gets blown up, that old guy gets blown up whenever the like leader guy of the television show like blows him up, that was so silly and outrageous that like it makes me feel like this movie is supposed to be parody on purpose. And I think that the parody works. I think that it made this a fresh sequel, than as opposed to doing the same thing over again. And it does, but it has a lot of self-referential moments where like you're like, oh, okay, it's really supposed to make fun of itself, and it does. And I think that does make it more entertaining, even though it's not as good as the first one. Like there's a moment where the douchebag guy, right when he dies, when he finally fucking dies, whenever he dies, and he says, you know, my mother told me that I would live forever, and then he just gets impaled like through the eye before he can finish that sentence. I love that. I love how silly that is, because it's, of course, it's like a cliche where it's like, oh, he's gonna say, I'm gonna live forever, but then then he dies right there. But it was funny in that moment. And it was finally just fulfilling to have that fucking dude die. I hate these characters. I mean, I hate that character like that, where it's just the douchebag that just treats everybody like shit. I don't like that character. And it's so overly obnoxious and just so unneeded. And then I like how the movie ends after, like, there's only two characters left again. I like how whenever it ends, it shows, like, the cannibal baby, which is disgusting, and it has great makeup. Like, the makeup's great in this movie, like, again, like the first one, but there's an ending scene where after the two people drive away again, like the first one, these new two characters, it shows a cannibal feeding this baby with a bottle, and then the baby won't take it. This mutant baby, which looks disgusting and deformed, and it's great, but it looks like it's trying to drink the bottle, but then it doesn't want it. So then what the cannibal gives to the baby is a finger from like one of the girl characters, I think. 'Cause I think it has a ring on it. But he gives this finger to the baby, and the baby starts like chewing on it, and that's how it ends. And I'm like, oh, that's disgusting. Just because the makeup was so good on that baby, that cannibal baby, I was like, oh, that's nasty. And then there was a scene earlier where like these two girls like see one of the cannibal women have the baby, like her water breaks like in this house they go into. And I thought that was disgusting. I thought, like I said, the makeup was really good, and it actually looked really good for this movie. I was surprised, because I've heard that the makeup gets shittier as these movies go along, but I thought the second one really matched the first one in the makeup. Like, it looked pretty good, for me personally. And there were a couple positives I can also give it. I like the fact that you couldn't tell who was the one who was going to make it out by the end, or who the couple were. Until closer to the end, you started to realize it, but at the beginning, I could not tell. Like, in the first movie, it felt like obvious that the guy character who drove in on his own and meets these other people, he's going to survive, and then Elijah Dushku survives in the first one. Those two characters, you could tell immediately that they were going to be the survivors, which is not a negative towards the first one, but I like the fact that this one didn't do that. Because they had a couple girl characters, they all had a lot of screen time together, so it felt like which girl character is going to last through the movie and which guy character is going to last. And I like that they didn't really let up and make it obvious like the first one. So I thought that was a good positive. I really thought that was a good way to have it more quote unquote, it's just like more like surprising, but I don't think it. Like, it isn't like an amazing sequel, but I think out of, in terms of like a direct-to-video sequel, which it is, I thought it was fine, and I thought it actually did a good job of being, even though it's close, it's kind of the same as the first one, it did a good job of making it more self-referential and making it more humorous, and making it to where you couldn't tell which character's going to make it till the end, and the makeup's really good. On the cannibals, I thought that it was a really not too bad sequel. Like, it's just, I feel like it's a little better than an average sequel, especially a horror sequel, because all the horror sequels I see, I'm like, okay, some of these just get downright just some of the worst things I've ever seen, but this one is definitely not that. Maybe the Wrong Turn sequels that I watch after this might get worse and worse, and I'm assuming they are, but I always hear the second one wasn't too bad, and I think that too. I think the second one isn't a bad sequel. It's just an alright sequel with good self-referential jokes. I like most of the characters besides the douchebag characters. The cannibal's makeup was good. So overall, it was a pretty fine sequel. Not like anything to write home about like the first one, but it was really, really solid.